died, I was so sad that I would never hear that voice again. His laugh. His funny little requests.
Touch me.
His reprimands.
Touch me harder.
All funky colors. Shapes that swing.
It's impossible.
Game of level 15 and it is virtually...
This episode brought to you by Eden's Gate. And I saw, behold, it was a white horse, and hell followed with him.
Crispy and delicious. Oh my gosh, it's a podcast, everybody.
Hey.
Is a what?
This isn't what I signed up for.
What are we doing?
The shock silver. Oh yeah, hold on. Oh no, I didn't know she was going to be on this podcast.
Okay.
I wouldn't have come if I known you were going to be here.
Wouldn't have come if I knew this was going to be a podcast. Oh my gosh.
This is what I signed up for.
Well, what's the better format then? I
thought we were doing community service.
Community service? This is court-mandated community service.
Yeah.
This is what we're here for.
You know, soup kitchen. That's what I was expecting.
Ye old YouTube soup kitchen?
Yes.
You know, how they always do.
Yeah. That's sort of the curse of people on the tubes. How's it going, Jason?
Not bad. Hey, Ross, did you play Ayuden this week?
I have not.
No.
I ended up playing Far Cry because I didn't have time to really sit down and play a lot of it. So
I saw it on Game Pass. Game Pass, yeah. So I downloaded it and played it. I love the visuals, but kind of my hot take about it is that the combat is boring.
I mean, is it just turn-based?
Yeah.
Is that a hot take or is that just a take?
Well, the thing is that from what I've seen, a lot of people are like, "Oh, this is so great! You got to play it." And
okay.
It's okay.
It doesn't meet Jason's high standards.
Yeah. The story is also a little bit weird. Like there's this thing called a lens that somehow makes it so you can do magic, but they weren't created by you or your civilization. They were created by a forerunner civilization that disappeared, and now you're like wandering around. Your first
who you
mission
think
is to team up.
Yeah, but you think they're humans, but they're going to end up being these weird, stupid aliens with robots?
Probably.
Thanks, Halo.
So anyway,
Ross is happy about it.
Your first mission is to team up with. So you're a mercenary who belongs to the Watch, and the Watch is an auxiliary to the regular army to just kind of provide backup and stuff. And so your first mission is to team up with the Empire, whom you've been at war with. And it's kind of funny. The side that you are on, they're called the League of Nations.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Woodrow Wilson would be very happy.
It lasted.
But you team up with the Empire to go find this primal lens, this lens that's even more powerful than the ones that normal people find and can use.
What do you mean normal people?
So you're basically, when you get to the primal lens, when you find it, they're like, oh, this lens is so powerful, no one person could use it. And you're like, okay. But the main Empire guy that you're that's on your team at this point, he's like, there's a guy on our side that I think he's gonna try to use this to stoke the war again with your nation, with your League of Nations. And when you meet him, it's like, yeah, he's evil. But they don't really explain anything about the lens.
Well, if he's part of the League of Nations, he's probably evil.
Well, no, he's not. He's part of the Empire.
Well, they've got it backwards then.
Yeah. The other thing, I played a little bit of Super Mario Brothers, Super Mario Wonder.
It's fun.
Can't fault it. It's a Mario game.
It's not a standout, but it's fun. It's standard
No, but it's
Mario
fun, yeah.
fun.
The interesting thing about it was the elephant power up.
Not the, you get enough of the, Jason, you're quiet. Do you need to up your mic or something? Thanks, Toasty.
I will see.
Or
if I
put it inside of your mouth so we get resonance. Consume your mic.
That wouldn't help. Well, mic's all the way up, so I'll just sit closer.
Well, let me, let's consume it. I don't know if I can actually adjust you. No, I can adjust the whole of Discord, but I can't address Jason's problems. Both with the mic and life in general. Anyway, go ahead, Jason.
The other thing is I finally put, and this is kind of just non-geek stuff. I finally put running boards on my Jeep. I got that done today. So
when you get in the racing
it has
strips,
never been, probably never. That seems really dumb.
It makes it go faster, Jason.
Oh, come on.
I should paint it red and put flames on it.
Yes.
It's one of those things that it's never been a problem for me personally. I just step into the Jeep. I'm tall enough, but for like my wife,
You have midgets in your
kids,
family.
Yeah. So this will help.
What, Ross?
You know.
He has
Jason
Gary
well-known many
Oldman as
family.
members of his
Tippy
family.
toes, the family.
Well, at least you're taking care of the problem. Ross, say words.
So things have been pretty all right. I've been watching Legends of Galactic Heroes, and I really like that anime. It's delightful.
Rock on.
It's like watching a World War II documentary or something like that, Napoleon documentary, but it's in space. And it has the wonderful archetypes of anime heroes. On one side, you have the sleepy but competent general guy, who's, of course, everyone's young, too. They all have to be very young because it's anime. And on the other hand, you have the very beautiful and perhaps closeted gay blonde guy who is also incredibly competent and very driven to be power hungry. And I love it.
That sounds great.
No, it's awesome. It's so fun. People dying in space, hundreds of thousands at a time. It's cool.
Well, we've spoken all the important people.
Well, we can just move on. Then,
Move on. Go ahead.
Well, because we got extra time, I guess, Silver, if you want to share what's going on.
I survived finals.
Oh my god. Were there finals going on? I didn't even realize.
Well, because I'm not in school, and
Well,
this
it's
is a problem
over.
just for you.
It's over. I'm alive. Yeah, I'd say things are good.
I think I texted you after finals, and I was like, "Oh, how'd it go?" And you're like, "Oh, I survived." I was like, "Dang it! I mean, good." Hey, is it possible to
Yep.
die from finals?
Oh, I'm sure.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise
Physically,
me if
emotionally.
somebody did die during finals.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, 100% someone's died during finals. I mean, even I'm not by their own hand. Even someone's had a massive coronary during a final. I guarantee it.
Well, I would like to know of the events that are abnormal, not like stress-induced or anxiety-induced or something, like a random flying piece of paper cut their jugular.
Final
Took 'em out.
They were
destination.
walking
Finals death?
into the testing
Finals
center,
destination.
and a piano fell on them.
It's literally Looney Tunes logic at campus.
Yeah.
Like, oh no!
Their head sticks out of the piano, and all of their teeth are piano keys.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
I've seen it.
you've seen it. Ross knows. Silver's still a fetus.
Bad.
What have I been up to? What, you have a problem with it? Feti?
Hey, you hung out with this feti this week.
That's right, I did.
No.
Well, it's weird because I'm friends with a
Wait.
fetus. We hang out because we're friends. What, you think it's weird?
Someone clearly does. Why?
I've been watching back Black Butler. It's both good and terrible. And it's your favorite show because you have dreamy eyes for Sebastian. And it's got problems.
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh.
It's a guilty pleasure. So bad. It's
Well,
good.
at least my favorite anime isn't both good and bad. It's just good. Is it his British accent?
Bebop.
Yeah, it is. Oh no, higher standards of quality.
The guy who voice acts him isn't even British, of course.
He does a good British accent. Very classy.
Oh yeah. His name's J. Michael Tatum.
Alex Child.
Yeah.
I could hear Jason's 40 children wandering in the background. Yeah, we did hang out. Me and Silver.
Oh no, they're rallying.
The long-awaited sit down and extended conversation about Silent Voice happened, and it was recorded.
We live in high school. Wait for me.
Yeah, Silver not only watched it beforehand and then had like high school PTSD, but then had to go through it with me sitting next to her and harassing her during the whole thing. I did threaten to punch you if you got emotional. That's how I deal with my feelings.
I'm great at
It is.
keeping it under wraps, so no punching occurred. Sorry.
Well, I mean, lip quiver. So I probably could have paid more attention so that I could hit you more. Because apparently I'm
You're not
excessively
looking at the
violent.
screen. You're looking at me the entire time for any change.
It's like a live action reaction. You know, the reaction video, so I could just see you get emotional about things, but I'm staring at you awkwardly.
Just absorbing all the emotions like a vampire. That's what I do.
Yeah. Well, currently it's in
like it hit me.
Currently it's in editing. I don't know how it's going to end up being chopped up. Roughly at the moment, it's not quite 4 hours. The conversation, and the movie's not a 4-hour movie. We'll see where it ends up going. Because much like Silver said at the time, it's overall a good discussion. It might be worth to just release the whole thing as a big chunk anyway.
Cut out all
The
my
whole
nonsense.
No.
When I stumble over words, you can cut that
No,
out.
no,
Brett, make a supercut of that. Just that. And post only that.
just
Forget
her
the-
struggling to come up. Well, as I said at the time, Silver, you shouldn't be ashamed of trying to struggle over your words. You're exploring the topic and what you think about it. No one's asking you to be perfect or the most eloquent human being in the world.
I'm asking me to be perfect. Also,
Oh my gosh.
did you say human being?
Horrible kaiju monster that makes me vomit when I look at you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Got that one right.
I did get that one right. Clickbaity title and thumbnail aside, which Silver made, mind you. Hilariously, we have Ben Shapiro
Well,
punching
laughing, yeah.
Destiny.
As
I
they
mean, you
will.
really... no. See, I requested,
That way.
maybe they're fighting or something, and she's like, no, he's wrecking him.
Oh.
Also, thing is, yes, I wanted them both to fight in it, but I sort of ran out of time because I was focusing too much on making a new arm for Ben there in the thumbnail. I had to piece it
No-
together.
No
So I'm
excuses,
like,
young
we'll
lady.
just call it good. Like 8:30. Gonna get this out.
Well, quick aside news. The podcast's better than chance. The podcast's thank you. The podcast's favorite audience member, Jessie, had a loved one pass away. Her guinea pig named Moss. So sympathies, and Moss is no longer dealing with her difficulty and drama.
Sorry, Moss.
So yeah, I thought I might do something like put the picture up and then rest in peace, but I was like, that's kind of tacky, and she's just dealing with it. But I appreciate her being here through her mourning. But yeah, these things happen in life, not just human loved ones, but pets, and we get genuinely attached to them, and they become friends of ours, and it's hard to let them go. One of the first pets we ever had, I had to bury. He's buried under the tree in the yard, by the way.
Nice though. I like that.
Well, it's a lovely tree, and it was our cat, and for some reason I was determined to call him Cat.
An
Parsh-
apt name, very descriptive.
Well, look, Ross, don't criticize my decision making. So I'm in high school and I'm kind of a douche. And my sister wanted to name him Angel after the Joss Whedon show spin-off from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I was like, no. And some reason I had a joke in my head where if we called him Cat and I yelled, "You stupid cat," then he would know who I'm talking to. That was the joke. And then that just carried into him being Cat. Which, I mean, in reality, most of the time I called him, "Hey, buddy," or whatever. You know what I mean? As opposed to just derogatorily Cat. Jason remembers him.
Yeah, he was an awesome cat. Really friendly.
Extremely friendly. For some reason, he loved to lay on your shoes when you would come over.
Yeah,
Ah,
I'd go to leave
Got
and have to
mauled
move
by
the
my
cat off
cat.
my shoes so I could put them on.
Just gotta move back, buddy. Despite the fact that, go ahead,
But that was actually the name of my grandma's cat too.
Cat.
She liked to. She just like didn't want to. It was like he was like her roommate living with her, and she just called him Cat.
Just the lack of creativity. Cat, Bob.
Yeah.
Hiya, Bob.
Bob.
ah.
Hey, Bob. Silver's cats are excessively friendly and chonky. I'm going to tell you,
by the chonk.
I did get mauled by the chonk, not only right as we started doing the recording. He jumps on and settles in and then starts kneading my leg. And I have shorts on, so it's just skin. And he's really loud purring. Luckily, the mic didn't pick it up. But he settles in, and then I sit and pet him, and I got more affection from your cat than I have both of the cats we own for all of their existence. For some reason. And then on top of that, he sheds like a son of a gun, and there was so much hair on me, it was like I had rolled on... It's like the opposite of trying to get rid of hair. It just added to it. And there was so much in the air. It was in my eye, and I had to keep rubbing it because there was hair in my eye. Freaking, he's a big boy. When he comes in, it's like, oh, Lord, he coming.
Yeah, he's 20 pounds a cat when we took him to the vet once. They didn't say he was overweight, but they looked at him walking in, just walking over to the scale. And everyone in the vet clinic gathered around, and I just hear one guy go, "Look at that mass!" And forever since then, ever since like that cat walks into the room, I go, "Look at that mass!"
By the way, they didn't say he was overweight because they could tell you'd be sensitive about it, Val.
Yeah, you're hypersensitive.
You're like, "Oh, he's really healthy. He's fine." Like,
he's
really? You sure?
His arteries are dying.
He's like 20 pounds.
Please God, get him on diet.
Well, Ross had a reaction to him coming into the room.
He was amazing. His magnificence.
Just a big boy. He's a big boy. Well, we have clickbaity topics to discuss. Jessie, in all her kindness, sent me a video she wanted. She thought would be related to the discussions we do and the podcast and whatnot. I'm not a big Destiny fan, as I iterated last time with ad hominem attacks on him. I think he's pretty much a hack, but he had some things to say about the current state of how people view media and movies. He talks about Ben Shapiro in sort of a straw man-y sort of way. So I thought this would justify a large discussion on the topic at hand. Now, Ross is going to hate me because, despite the fact I've seen the video twice, with the 1,000 things I have to do for the podcast, I cannot retain things he said and arguments off the top of my head. So we will play small segments of this and then react to it. And then that will open up to what is inevitably going to be me screaming at the mic for 30 minutes. So Ross, who refused to watch the video.
Sorry, I hate
videos.
I refuse to engage.
Because, and I quote, "I only have so much time in this world."
I only got so many hours left on this earth, and I spending them watching that bread tuber hack, or Ben Shapiro for that matter, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, you're justified in liking or disliking or engaging in the culture war in any way you want to. You don't have to. Because it's related to the topic that we have, and Jesse was curious about our opinions, I tried to get the video to play naturally for some reason on the stream with testing, and I couldn't seem to get it to work right. Actually, let me make sure. Let's see, stream audio, microphone. If I play this intro, let me know if you could hear something, because we didn't test any of this out. I cannot hear it. Let me fix it. Oh my gosh, it's erroring.
Save me, Lord Technology.
You sacrifice the
Well-
chicken.
Well, I hit the I hit the play, and then it's like audio renderer error. Please restart your computer. It's like, well, that's not gonna happen.
Oh,
Yeah, just do it, right? What's gonna happen? Just do
yeah.
it.
Do we need to? Well, I'm gonna try one more time, and then we're just gonna generalize his statements in an unfair manner. What do you say?
Hey, that works
Sounds
for
good to me.
Well, Ross is more of a fan of that. than I am.
Yeah.
Well, I figured I would let him speak for himself.
Sure.
We may have that situation where I just everything sucks. Well, let me start out while I'm playing with this. Let's go down to time rep, if you will. Everybody. So I can at least, because I thought about how do I verbalize the entire chain of events that creates the environment that we're in today. Because despite the all of the, how would you say, there's a lot of drama and silliness and preconceived notions and whatnot attached to the term, but I'm trying to dance around it. So here's where I'm going to start, and this is going to sound political, but I'm not weighing in on the benefits of anything. I'm simply sort of using this as an analogy. All right. So in the current climate and has been through history, we have something like protests, right? Protests exist. Well, people expressing their opinions in a public forum, which is completely fine, and I have no problem with it. But the problem is that when people protest, they want to make sure you have to hear their opinions. Because when people protest, they don't politely go and stand in front of, for the most part, in a park. They don't politely go and stand in front of a state capitol or the national capitol. In protest, they do it where they're in streets, where they're in your face, and where they're loud, and where they're in places so that people are exposed to them. And the common retort as to why protests are presented in such a way is that it gets you talking about the topic that they want you to talk about. I would argue negatively. And if you didn't, that the purpose of protest is to get in your face and to become an inconvenience, because if they weren't an inconvenience, people would ignore them. And I agree, by and large, if you weren't annoying and in the streets and blocking people and causing problems, mostly people would ignore you. I don't think protests really serve their general purpose. This has nothing to do with the point. I think by and large, they're more of a galvanizing your base, more than it serves a purpose to persuade the other side. Because this is nearly beside the point. The reason why I'm bringing this up in the way that I'm bringing it up is because now that we're going into the current climate that we have in media, video games, movies, comic books, whatever, which is what the purpose of this podcast is, not politics. The reason why I'm referencing protest in a sense of an analogy is when you have somebody, let's say somebody wants to make a movie with a political agenda, which is completely fine. People have made political agenda movies throughout all of time. Well, not throughout all of time, since film has existed. The ancient Chinese were not concerned about social issues and making films out of it. I really detracted myself. So essentially, when people make these films, they put them out there with a message. that they want people to hear, that they want to come across as, and nobody cares. You're completely welcome to do so. Nobody's upset about this. Nobody's upset when you make political movies with political messages. Nobody's upset when, because these things have been made forever. The reason why things have changed in media is the same reason that protests are the way that they are. Because when you make a movie about a particular political topic, and it doesn't have to be, a left wing or a right wing. It can literally be like a Christian message movie where they're trying to convert you to Jesus. The reason why things have changed is because, by and large, people simply ignore those movies because advertising and presentation are simply that, hey, look, this is political, and then people can make decisions on that political message whether or not they want access to it. And much like with protesting, when you protest, no one cares because they know what your message is and maybe they agree or disagree, and so they just ignore you. And they ignore those films because they do or do not want to access them. And as the political winds have shifted, as we have entered a more activist realm in places like Hollywood, where previously things, by and large, there have always been political movies, but by and large, mainstream movies have not weighed in, or at least tried to insert agenda into their films. At least not directly. It's like, you think back and it's like, were there films with political messaging? Sure. I mean, Abyss, the ending is an environmental ending. But it's not every moment of the movie is trying to do this, and then they're inserting little things into it. And they know that you'll ignore explicit political messaging. And the classic strategy was be subtle and be persuasive and get the general audience, and then kind of insert, hey, don't be racist or take care of the environment or follow Jesus. I don't know. Whatever messaging they want. But now the intent is to make sure that you're annoying people so that you make sure that you're heard. And this is the form of protesting that I dislike, where you're getting in people's faces and you're trying to change the medium. And so when I describe woke, because Destiny and the other guy whose, I apologize, name I'm not familiar with and I forget at the moment, they discuss and they have a reasonable quite a few reasonable reactions to certain things. But when they talk about, gosh, I've really retracted from that point. You see where I'm getting at is the intention is to insert politics into these things on purpose. That's what I was getting at. So woke. When I say it, I can't speak for everybody else. When I say it, is when there's an intentional purpose to insert political messaging, to insert, it doesn't matter what it is, diversity, LGBTQ issues, environmental issues, whatever. But that's that it's put in without any natural intention. So it's like the story wasn't written to revolve around that. It's crammed in solely for the purpose of inserting the ideology into something where it wasn't there before, at the detriment of the storytelling. And to their credit, they said the problem isn't that things are getting more political, that the problem is that movies are getting worse and poorly written. And I 1,000% agree. And a lot of their what they're upset with the rhetoric that they use against Ben Shapiro and a lot of other YouTubers and whatnot, they bring up the quartering. The quartering's not hard to point out that he's being exaggerated and rhetorical and like I don't follow him for a reason. Like his stuff is clickbaity and silly, and like Ross knows.
Incredibly.
Incredibly so. And so we're looking at examples. So they spoke about Ghostbusters and how, well, the complaints weren't, hey, this movie is bad. The complaints were, why are there 4 women in this movie? Here's the thing. A lot of people, I'm not going to attribute horrifical, malicious intention to these members of the people that respond to these things. What people see and that they're being more exposed to is when you see a movie and that was classically male and they're making them all female, immediately they go, oh, woke. And even if they can't articulate it, what they're seeing is, hey, our political message is more important than the storytelling to make a good movie. That's why we intentionally, purposely changed all of these characters. Because they said, well, nobody complains about the storytelling. I'm going to be honest, I listened to a lot of people review that movie, and a lot of people have problems with the storytelling of this film. I don't explicitly care if it's an all-women Ghostbusters. What I see with the all-women Ghostbusters and what other people see, as I'm trying to explain people that you might not understand, is they see when somebody says, hey, they're making an all-women Ghostbusters, immediately they go, oh, I know what they're trying to do. I see where they're trying to take. They're immediately, they're trying to be political. They're trying to purposely do this with an intention. And you could see, because if there were just a couple of men and a couple of women, nobody probably would have said anything about the demographic. They'd have been like, oh, it's a new Ghostbusters. But you know what they're trying to do when you make it explicitly women, because you're like, oh, well, somebody has an agenda and they're trying to insert their messaging into it. And this is what they're doing. They're trying to make, and that movie is really bad at the agenda, because clearly the director and the writers wanted to make these women weirdly crass and unfunny. Well, that's beside the point. But they made the men stupid. Like, explicitly, Chris Hemsworth is just a raving dumbass, and he's really dumb. He's incredibly stupid. Whereas the woman in the classic Ghostbusters film was strong and assertive.
Yeah, she was.
And Janine
smart.
Melness is a really cool character. Who Silver does a really good version of Janine Melness. No,
Oh, no, do I have to?
Yes, because I have this power.
Hello, Ghostbusters. What do you want?
Oh, awesome.
That's amazing.
Well, they're like, well, they're responding to this because, hey, look how political these people are. That they're going, look at the women. Why is the women so important? Nobody cares that Charlie's Angels is all women. Nobody started out being like, why is it all women? You know why nobody started out that way? Because Charlie's Angels is its own thing and is expected there to be all women. It would be weird if they made a Charlie's Angels and people would point out, hey, why is there all dudes in this? Like, that's kind of confusing. And of course, they're going to be sexists who were out there going like, oh, I don't want the ladies into it. And there's a lot of exaggerated rhetoric. But it is a disingenuous argument that they make in that video to go, hey, the only reason why they hate it is because of women. And it's like, no one lambasted Charlie's Angels because it was all women, because the expectation was it would be all women. That was the expectation. Yeah. The reason why, and this is something that happens in media in general, where people watch something and then they get upset about the content. The reason why a lot of people don't like changes to things is because there is expectation, because there are previous versions that they have seen that they've either read or watched or whatever, and there's an expectation as to what it's going to look like and how's it going to be portrayed. They make this really odd argument where he's like, well, people just get on there and like, well, why is there a gay person in here? It's like, well, it's why there's a straight person in there. Look.
There was an article recently that I came across while I was, that's kind of on this topic. They were talking about the remake of the Neverending Story movie. And they were saying that the scene where Atreyu is leading his horse through the swamp of sadness or despair or whatever it's called, I forget. And the horse just gives up and sinks into the mud. And they're like, that can't be in the remake. And I'm like, no, that needs to be in the remake.
It was important It was an important aspect of traumatizing children across the world for quite some time.
Exactly. You need to have that trauma. But I would argue that you can't take that out. It was such an iconic scene that you have to do it, and you have to do it right. And if you don't put it in there, you're not doing justice to the actor, to the story, to the part. I mean, what are you gonna do? Just the horse just doesn't show up again? You go in,
so
the horse doesn't come out. I don't know.
Well, to re-pick up where I was addressing the gay thing, it's like, well, why is there a gay person in there? It's not because there's a gay person, but because we could see that it's ham-fisted into the story. And that's what people mean when they say woke. That there's an unnatural punch into the story that doesn't serve the plot, that doesn't edify the movie, and you're just going, well, why do you care? It's not in there that long. And it's like, you're the one that cared because you insisted it was in there. And Hollywood is so disingenuous when it comes to this thing, because believe it or not, they don't actually give a shit about these expanding diversity and portraying more diverse individuals. They don't actually care. It is the most disingenuous thing possible. Oh, well, we have a black stormtrooper and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, because it's important because we need to portray more different races. I mean, all right, I don't know why it's so important to portray races. Yeah, it's really important. Well, how come you edited the movie poster in China so he's really tiny in the background? and how come when in that movie when you inserted a same-sex kiss in the third of the sequel trilogy, that was edited out when put into China? And it's like, well, they would have... Look, it's easy to politicize and insert ham-fisted, unnatural political stuff into stuff when you're dealing with countries that are more tolerant. But it's difficult when you refuse to do it because you don't actually care about the issue when it comes to portraying this in other countries that aren't so okay with this content. And I don't... Yeah. So here's... I'm going to give examples without talking sort of in generalities, like, oh, just woke, blah. So we can talk about Rey, sort of specifically. I don't care that Rey's a woman. I thought it was interesting. We're getting a different kind of main character, a different kind of story. Honestly, most of us thought Finn was going to be the main character when we went to go see the first movie. And we were super cool with it. I was like, oh, dude, he's going to have a lightsaber and stuff. But instead it's Rey, but it's fine. What we don't like is that Rey is good at everything, has no struggles throughout the movie, is immediately awesome at force powers that take training for any average human being, is just awesome at everything. She has no character art. There's no threat. There's no difficulties. Sorry, Silver, what were you going to say?
I just said she's boring.
Yeah.
She is. She's boring. There's nothing to her character, as opposed to somebody like Ripley in Alien, where she's awesome, but she's a human. She has difficult problems. She struggles to get through things. She's not immediately awesome at it. She gets better. She's a great female character. And then you have Rey, it's not difficult, and she doesn't have to try, and immediately she wins. There's no threat to the characters. You don't have any anxiety about whether or not they're going to make it through the story or whether or not things are going to be difficult, because she's just going to win because she's awesome woman Rey.
If you look at the character arc for Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy, he goes from knowing nothing about the Force. He can't even use it Obi-Wan's training him, and he finally manages to deflect the shots from the remote, and Han Solo looks at him and says, "Good against a remote is one thing. Good against, I forget the exact line, but he's like, good against an actual person, that's something else." And he had to learn. He had to struggle. He was not immediately good with his force powers. He was really powerful, but he had to be trained up. Rey didn't. Yeah, Rey
No,
did training, but not really.
well, and Ray's an easy example. Ross, feel free to
Right.
to jump in. I don't. You by and large see the argument and where I'm going with this. And me and Ross have discovered this or discussed this quite a bit a day or two ago.
Yeah. Look, you know, and it's not a subject I know a ton about, but like, there's always been politically minded writers in Hollywood. It's been a thing for a long, long time. The difference is they used to write good movies. They used to write characters that were aspirational, that were interesting. They used to write movies that were money makers,
Very true.
and not industry killers as they are now. I don't know. It's just because it's one of those things where it's like, how can you tell if something is eye-rollingly shoved in there? You can just tell. For me, I don't know if I can define it, but you can just tell.
What is it that senator's comment? I don't know what pornography is, but if I see it, I know it, sort of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like, and it doesn't even have to be overtly political, but you see what they're trying to do. You're like, oh, I know what you're trying to do. It's like you go watch Thor, a story based upon a character who's from Norse mythology, and it's not unexpected that Norse cultures would create gods that look like them. But then Asgard is like really diverse, oddly, and you're like, oh, well, that's strange. Well, is it diversity really important? And it's like, well, I really don't actually care. And when they insert what you can see what they're trying to do, they're like, yeah, but diversity good. And it's like, well, it's not serving the story. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing. And it's like, well, why don't you care about diversity? And it's like, you don't give a shit about diversity. Wakanda's the most racist country in the world, according to these standards. They don't let anybody that's not Wakandan into their country, let alone black. Every person outside of Wakanda that's not Wakandan in Africa were not allowed in that country. And which actually became somewhat of a plot, well, not really a plot point as far as like immigration is concerned. It became a plot point that Wakanda actually put their hands over their eyes and looked the other way when it came to the slave trade.
Yeah.
Because Wakanda needs to stay isolated. But it's like, according to those standards, Black Panther is an incredibly racist film. Not diverse, not inclusive. But when they say, and this is getting slightly political, what essentially when they say diversity, we need more diversity, is what they mean is non-white. So to their eyes, Wakanda, the Black Panther movie, is extremely diverse because white people aren't in Wakanda. Well, white people are in the movie. They're mostly bad guys.
Martin Freeman.
But it's like, Martin Freeman, I think he's a good guy. He's sort of the government connection to the. It's been a while since I've seen Black
he's
Panther.
immediately the bad guy to me. Anyway.
Well, he is a villain in my heart. Well, it's like, where are all the Asian Wakandans? where are all the Native American Wakanda? Oh, there isn't, because Wakanda hates everybody because they're racist. And here's the thing, I don't actually think Wakanda's racist. I'm just using the standards set forth. So when I watch a movie about Asgard and it's like, it has to be diverse because diversity, this is what people, when they're talking about woke. When I watch Wakanda, it's like, yeah, there aren't people there because they're an isolationist country and they don't want, like, it makes sense to the plot. I don't demand that there has to be non-black members of Wakanda, because Wakanda is
like
a very isolated
of Wakanda that's all Afrikaans.
Yeah.
Just South African refugees.
It's like it's like a Chinatown sort of thing. It's all explicitly them with like
Oi, brew.
their awkward like food that's different.
Oi, brew. Do you have any of that vibranium? Just like
Oh.
we're going to
They
start
got
a mercenary
potatoes.
company.
Honestly, I don't know what the food type of Afrikaans are. Aren't they originally
Yeah.
Dutch?
Dutch. Yeah, they're Dutch.
Yeah.
There's only two things I know in the world: people who are intolerant to other people's culture, and the Dutch.
And Dutch.
And the Dutch.
Or what?
Let's slam on the Dutch for a little while.
Hey, they have it.
Connie's small hands.
Smell of cabbage. Nomads.
Smell
you
of
know.
cabbage, you see. Yeah. Much like the Romani people. Which you think racism isn't a big thing in Europe, but then talk to them about the gypsies and it becomes this whole problem.
Racism is a
Oh my
huge
gosh.
thing in
No,
Europe.
you don't understand. It's different. Like, oh, okay. It's different. Sure.
They move into our neighborhoods and impregnate our wives and daughters and then leave. And it's like, oh, dude. All right. Calm down.
Okay.
Calm down, champ. Jason, would your children like to join the podcast? I can't hear them.
Probably, but I don't want them to. So
What do you think
Silver,
about Dutch children?
Silver, what is your reflection on what we're getting at, or at least what I'm getting at? Do you hate me? Do you disagree? Those are separate things. I know you hate me, but do you hate me because of this opinion, and do you disagree?
I don't hate you. I don't disagree.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you hate me. Didn't we decide that
Yeah.
you were the one that offs me in the end? Like you're the one that takes me out.
Whoa. Yeah, look, if you didn't see that coming,
Yeah.
I'd have to tell you at some point.
That's a mercy kill. I don't know.
Oh my god, she's oof, brutal.
Put me out of my misery. You are my final destination.
Yeah. I'm the final boss.
And here's the thing: the Destiny video had there were some very disingenuous points they made, and there were some straw man arguments, but they had some very reasonable arguments and very reasonable explanations. You are allowed to interpret any movie you want to, and guess what? The reason why Ben Shapiro is brought up in this fashion is they basically generalize and say, well, Ben Shapiro, they don't even react to the trailer. They just say, this is woke, this is stupid, blah, blah, blah. It's not my job to defend Ben Shapiro, but I will say, if disliking,
He did that pretty well himself.
well, now let me rant, Jason. If disliking content solely based upon woke is something Ben Shapiro does, and I think it's a disingenuous point because I've seen his Barbie review and he doesn't just sit there and go woke. It's like 50 minutes long. He has issues with the story. But if let's say he's completely he is the most unreasonable, unobjective person in the world, and he just says, I hate this bullshit because it's woke. Yeah, okay. He's allowed to. Like, why is it such a big deal that people have political responses to things, that they view things in a political lens? People are allowed to do that. And especially when, guess what, we're going through somewhat of a culture war, that people get aggressive about these things and then they start interpreting things through politics. And one of the bigger messages in the piece, like it's a music piece, one of the bigger messages in the video is that essentially the people responding to what they see as woke are making things political by talking about it, by making it a big deal. Why do you care? It's only 10 seconds and blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. We know what they're doing. Now, I don't want to claim that I know the intention and the mind behind everything that's going on in Hollywood, but we know what they're trying to do. And by that, I mean, we have video evidence of people working at Disney saying we have a not so secret gay agenda, that when she was making child content, she would just keep inserting political messaging into the children's programming on the Disney Channel. It's on purpose. They know what they're doing. We know what they're doing. And claiming we're being political by pointing out their political stuff. This is like a nonsensical chicken and the egg argument. Well, who came first? It's like, well, the guy who started it. Like, let's go back to Anita Sarkeesian. And I'm not going to quote it. I don't remember the quote exactly. But essentially she goes, everything is political. Everything is racist. Everything is sexist. And you have to point it all out. That is what she wants to do. And you go, well, she's just a political commentator that extremely cares about her ideology. No, she marketed herself as an advisor to the video game world. That's what she's trying to do, is make sure that the video game world insert messaging into their content. That's what Sweet Baby Inc. was doing. That's what all of these companies, theirs is intentional, and we see it. We see what you're doing. Just make a movie about LGBTQ issues. Well, guess what? The reason they don't do it is because people won't watch it. So they co-opt already established IPs. They take Star Wars or Marvel or whatever content it happens to be that they know is already popular, and then they shove it in there and you can see it. If they told a story in Star Wars that had, let's say, a gay relationship in it, and it served the story and it didn't feel ham-fisted, then fine. But it is ham-fisted because we could see it. That there's no natural to this. It's not natural when at the end of the third movie, just in the background, two women are kissing, and it's like, okay, like, we know what you're doing. And we know you're doing it incrementally. You're just like, well, we'll put a little in there, and the next time we'll have more, and then we'll incrementally increase these things. Silver, were you going to add any more to this? I asked you a question, and then you kind of petered out.
Oh, no, I had nothing to add to it other than I just agree to you.
Okay.
Go
Well,
ahead.
what do you agree with? Elaborate on your thoughts. Verbalize what's in your head. I'm going to force you to
Pretty much
participate.
the same
young
thing you've been
lady.
saying. It's just I know I have no excuses now.
You don't have
The
homework.
intentional, like, we're gonna put this in here to make you pay attention to it when it serves nothing, that is very annoying. On both sides, like we were saying.
Yeah. You
They
can have a
just
weird Christian
forever went,
messaging
like-
in movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, if they just constantly keep going.
Left Behind series, anyone?
Look,
Except Jesus or whatever, that would probably be just as annoying as.
they're trying to
Acceptable
save
agenda
your
or
soul,
whatever.
Jason. It's not political when it's important to your soul.
Uh-huh.
Suck it.
Jason's soul needs saving.
Well, and here's the dumb part. You can have like Christian religious characters. It can serve the plot and edify. It can expand upon a character's personality. You can do that.
Yeah.
As
Yeah, you
opposed
can
to
totally have-
well,
Go ahead.
here would be a difference. Hey, there's character that has a background, they're very religious, and so maybe they're in a battle, and so they maybe like do a cross or something and kiss their necklace or whatever, or maybe they say something inspirational from the Bible, or you can have a person where they're in a meeting talking about something, and the guy walks into the background and goes, "Jesus is Christ," and then leaves. You're like, well, that was weird. Why is that in this? And then there's like weird veiled like crosses everywhere. It's like, oh, all right. And then the story's slightly a mirror to like the story of Joseph or something. It's like, okay, I see what you're doing. Like we know what you're doing. All right, buddy. Anyway, Silver.
Yeah, that would be weird. That's why it's like both sides of it. Just don't. If we clearly see you're pushing it, we're gonna actively avoid it.
Well, yeah, and that's what they're doing. And It's funny. They complained that there's this industry of YouTube that gets on there and just has 10 videos complaining about some stupid thing where there happens to be a gay person in it or whatever. It's like, so what? Like, if there's an audience that cares about those things, content of those things will be created. The reason why they don't like it and they're complaining is because they think that they're persuading dumb people to be hyper political like them. Because they think anybody who would believe it are idiots. That's essentially what they're saying. It's like, well, they're persuading less informed people. He says this in the video. And he's like, it's a problem because they're talking to less. It's like, what? So anybody who doesn't agree with your perspective is less informed and doesn't see things in your way, or like, so what? Like, if there were like 1,000 videos on there, like talking about how like there needs to be more like gay representation in the film, it's like, okay, because there's an audience for it and they want to see that content, and they're creating content that reflects the opinions of that audience. You can have creators that are persuasive, but you give people very little credit when you imply that the only reason why it's working is because these guys are basically brainwashing everybody into their opinion. If they want to get up there and complain there are gay people in a movie, that I guess they don't like gay people being in movies. Whoever this mysterious straw man happens to be, I guess they just hate gay people in film. That's what they don't like it. Okay, and I guess their audience agree with that opinion. Super fine. People are allowed to dislike or like content for whatever reason that they want to. And they kind of take this weird Puritan view of like, it's funny, he talks about how, well, the biggest problem in Hollywood is there's a lot of poor writing, and what they need to do is they need to let the artist create art. And I was like, that is not the issue there. Implying that somehow if you just stand aside and let artists go about it, that they will create content of value. Believe it or not, movies are also business, and they have to earn money.
I brought this up before, but they've done that. They did that in the 70s and 80s. Like very famously, Heaven's Gate. They let the guy that made The Deer Hunter just have an enormous budget and go ham, and there wasn't a lot of oversight, and he went over budget, over time. And wouldn't you know, it didn't make any money. Because it was like a 4-hour-long Western epic that was ultra-violent. Like, who's going to watch that? Like, and yeah, there's every artist is a brilliant master of what the audience needs to see.
I would argue that George Lucas needs somebody to rein him in, because when he has no restrictions, things get worse. They don't get better. They get worse. Movies are the way that they are. The people who pay for the film deserve to have a say in where the movie is going. And if they don't like where the movie is going, then they can replace them. It's not just... I understand the tendency to want to say that we need more artists that have a clear and focused vision, where they can and get across their vision coherently, where it can be expressed to the audience, where they can be exposed to it, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, that doesn't mean that what they have to say is worth a damn. or let's say it's worth a damn to them because they have something to say. It's not commercially viable, it is the point. Because somebody has to pay for this. It's funny that his guest laments that all of this money that's going into big budget movies, which they're putting way too much money in, that there's way, they are overspending on films, basically gambling. That we're going to talk about the numbers actually here in a few minutes. And he's like, well, I wish some of these great artists would get more funding. I'm going to be honest with you, because he talks about, well, Christopher Nolan and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to be honest with you. Christopher Nolan has funding because he has a track record of success. That's why he gets funding. And you might have a love of a particular artist.
Return on investment.
Precisely. You might have a love of a particular artist, and you might believe, well, he deserves more money. And that's great. You think he deserves more. He doesn't have a track record yet of being able to produce commercially viable content. And there are some studios that go, we're going to make an art piece because we like the thing they have to say, and then they make it and nobody sees it or it doesn't get any influence. But they do that all the time. Disney has done that for years, where they have little weird side projects where they fund. Weirdly enough, Disney was the one that funded Shogun of all things, and Shogun's amazing. Who would have thought they would have forked out the money for something like that? But they did, and it's not a mainstream thing, and it's not. It's got violence and blood and stuff in it. But I mean, studios do this all the time. It's just, it's a business, and it has to make business, and sometimes decisions are made for one reason or another. Am I being unreasonable, Jason? Am I out of my gate? Am I trying to be clickbaity and stupid?
You just reminded me of this legendary Hollywood director. I forget what his name was, but he was notorious for going over budget and just going over time on any project they put him on. And it was so hard for the studio to rein him in. They always were sending people there to try to get him to finish the movie, and it was just an impossible task. I forget the name of him, but he's
Michael
just
Tremino?
notorious. What was that?
Was it Michael Tremino?
No, I want to say it was like a German name. It was like back in the day, the kind of golden age of cinema.
Oh God, way back. Okay.
Yeah, but he was just, they brought him in because he was such a visionary and stuff, and his visions were always overblown, over budget, over long.
Well, I apologize
for
Go ahead, finish what you're.
The thing is that at the end of the day, the studios can't keep producing art house films, no matter how much they want to. They can't, because art house films usually don't make the money that the blockbusters do. They don't make the money that fund the studios. There was that article that you highlighted, where the dude is he's working on the new Disney Lion King prequel, and another person was like, "Why are you shilling for this?" And he's like, "I'm not shilling for this." And he's like, and he's like, "No, you totally are." And it's like, we recognize that you want to make your pet projects, but really, this is garbage. And he's like, "No, this has artistic integrity and stuff." And it's like, no, you're shilling for Disney. Come on. But we get it. It's like, if you want to make those films that you're really you have that passion about making that story, yeah, you've got to make the blockbusters. You have to, otherwise your studio goes under, and you don't get the funding for those indie niche art house films.
Well, that's usually how a lot of actors and directors do things, where they make the big blockbuster, so that and then they write into their contracts so that they can make the passion project attached to it that costs a lot less. And that happens all the time.
And I see no problem with that.
Yeah, whatever.
I see no problem with that. It's just like, if I really want to see that art house movie, documentary, whatever that you really, really wanted to make, I'll see it. Maybe it's something that I agree with, that you're like, that would be really interesting. I think I'll check that out. But the thing is that if that's all you do, or the only thing you're doing is ham-fistedly smashing these really these really niche ideas into these blockbuster films, yeah, I'm going to tune you out. I didn't come to the movie theater. I don't want to pay my money to go to the movie theater to see your movie if all you're going to do is preach to me. I came there to be entertained. And this isn't entertainment. This is you standing up on your soapbox and yelling at me. Like, I'll pass.
And I apologize that the audio didn't work. For some reason, it wants me to restart my computer to get it to work. Otherwise, we could address points directly as opposed to generalize what I can recall. But that's sort of the element of this sort of thing. It's like I'm not writing an essay. This is off the top of my head. So if I mischaracterized one of their arguments, I guess I did. Did they have some good points? Yeah, sure. That one of the biggest problems in Hollywood is the writing. That they're just making bad stuff. It's funny. One thing I did agree with Destiny on is they talked about Dune 1. And it's like, oh, you like Dune 1? And he's like, no. And Destiny's like, yeah, I hated Dune 1. I was like, guess what? I also didn't like Dune 1. It's not great. And I wasn't a huge fan. Like I was initially kind of like Dune 2, but as more I think about it, the less I like Dune 2 is the stupid part. And weirdly enough, the more I think about Dune 1, the more I like it, even though I still don't think I fully like it. They have their merits. It's a piece of art in and of itself. And it's up to
really good, really impressive.
Well, and it's up to the receiver of the art. I don't know if that's the right way to term it, to interpret it in a way that they like. And the problem is people come into things with preconceived notions where they either don't like an actor in it, or they don't like the story, or they didn't like the book, or they like the book and they insist that it has to be close to it. And that's the inevitability of anything you make, that people are going to have preconceived notions or expectations, especially when you're making something out of an already established IP that already exists. You're going to have expectations to it.
Or even one that's your own IP. Because this actually reminded me of the final episode of Cowboy Bebop, where the director or the writer, whoever it was, he was like, people think Spike died? I was like, yeah, kind of the way you left it.
Well, no,
laying on the ground.
he liked the idea of leaving it ambiguous and up to the audience's interpretation as to whether, spoilers, as to whether or not Spike dies at the end of Cowboy Bebop. He wanted to be ambiguous, almost like well, you don't know really what happens, and it's the intention that the author has. The intention of the author is that it's meant to be sort of ambiguous. Yeah, everybody thought he died. So, I mean, you can't stop how people interpret a piece of work.
See,
like,
the thing is
if somebody takes a... Go ahead.
Your intention is one thing. But once it's out in the open, everyone is going to have their own interpretation of it. Now, their interpretation may match yours, especially if you directed people down that path really, really well. But at the same time, how many videos are out there? How many articles are out there on fan theories that explain some plot hole in whatever it happens to be? It's like, oh yeah, this fan theory perfectly explains this plot hole. It's like, okay, yeah, that's your interpretation, and you're welcome to it. Please do that, but don't be surprised when the original author had a different intention than what you landed on.
Well, I think it can edify the piece by understanding the original intention of the author, but the problem is it doesn't change how you interpret the piece. Me and Silver talked extensively for almost 4 hours about a silent voice, and how there's a lot of messaging in there about forgiveness and repentance and bullying and anxiety and depression and self-deletion, if you will, to avoid the YouTube censors. And the funny thing is that the author, her intention is it's about communication, and you can see it in the film and in the manga that it's about communication. But the problem is people interpret pieces based upon sort of their own life circumstances, and things mean more or less to them based upon. It's funny, the movie came out around the same time as Your Name, and Your Name blew up because there's a lot of ladies out there just love the love story in Your Name. And me and Silver really like A Silent Voice. Does that mean Silent Voice is better or worse? No. It just means we connected it differently because we have had experiences with bullying and anxiety and depression and forgiveness and repentance. Like those messages connected with us. And some of those messages connected with us more than others of those messages based upon our individual circumstances. And I understand her. It helps to edify the piece, understanding that she said she hesitates to say it's about bullying because she said it's deliberately about communication. It helps to edify the piece, understanding that. But that doesn't mean that I get mostly bullying message from it, sort of
Right.
thing.
The other thing is that and when you have a piece, it could be that the author is, focusing, like you said, in this movie she's focusing on communication, but because these other things are in it, like you said, you pick up on these other things because maybe that speaks more to you than the central narrative. The other thing is that you could have a piece like you could have a piece like a silent voice that maybe it is objectively better than your name, but your name resonated more with audiences at the time. And so
Well, and
it's
it's
one of those things
especially
where,
general audiences. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. And it could be that in a few years, maybe there will be kind of a renaissance for a silent voice, where it's like the general audience kind of wakes up to it and is like, no, this one is actually better than that one. You just never know. It's one of those things where you kind of have to wait a while to see if tastes change, if that message. Right now, there's a lot about bullying that's out there. I was seeing a lot of stuff about mental health when I was on YouTube. They're just, hey, are you, experiencing, depression, blah, blah, blah. So there is at times, just because of what's going on in the society and culture, that um, certain messages hit home more than others, because there is more of a focus on that particular thing at that particular point in time.
And then the weird woke thing would be in the middle of the movie, just a flamboyant gay man walks in. And it's like, where'd you come from? What? You care about gay people? It's like, no, it doesn't make any sense to this movie. Like, what's he doing here?
Right.
Like, that's kind of odd. And then at another point, somebody's like, Jesus needs to save you. And you're like, this is weird. That's what we mean when we discuss woke. Silver, I'm on other screens and paying attention to the other stuff. What's the chat been doing? Have they been flipping out about the rants?
Well, let me
Because it's
pull
your
it up.
job.
My
You're
job.
fired.
Yeah, Val.
You're
I'm
fired,
sorry.
Valerie. Valeria. I'm
Let's
revoking
see.
your woman status.
Hey!
Turn in your woman
I ha-
card.
I have that
No.
authority. It's the patriarchy. I have that authority.
Okay, let's see. Where do we leave off on? Let's see. Toxie says, yeah, this all just seems like bad writing or storytelling, which presumably
agree,
you
yeah.
would have an issue with regardless of gender. So the question is, why so much focus on gender or orientation, etc.?
Because the
Neither
change in the
serves nor
culture.
detracts from the story, so why do you care? Marvel isn't going for realism.
Well, no.
It's a really bad excuse, by the way.
It's a bad excuse. Well, realism. It's not because of realism. It's because of the previously established content that set up this universe, that already set up how it's supposed to look and feel.
Weirdly enough, Wakanda would be more realistic if the magical space metal fell in one particular country and they decided to be, or one particular region, and they decided to be isolationists. That probably would be realistic, that it was only Wakandan folks that lived there.
Well, especially if it had the
You know.
abilities that they had, where they can like stealth hide the entire country.
Yeah. Remember though, they didn't invent buttons to operate that. It was drums.
Well, and there's a lot of weird, like, cliche African stuff on top of like super advanced technology. Like they open and close their shields with drums.
Yeah. Remember how terrible that one episode of Star Trek was in the early season of TNG? Remember that one? With the African planet?
Yeah, I do.
That was sure embarrassing, huh?
And,
Marvel took that idea and took some ideas from that and put it in a multi-million-dollar movie. That's smart.
Anyway, more Silver.
Let's see. Jesse says, "Is in the background equals ham-fisted. Do you have any explanation of it being done right?"
Yeah, I have an
Well,
explanation
when
of it
it's
being done
not
right. Have you
ham-fisted,
heard of
go
the
ahead,
movie called
Ross.
The Birdcage? There's a movie
Yeah.
called The Birdcage. It's from the 90s. Actually, it's a French movie from the 70s that they remade in America in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I
Robin
love The
Williams, wasn't it?
Birdcage. Yep, Robin
Robin
Williams,
Williams,
Nathan Lane,
Nathan
Gene
Lane, yeah.
Hackman, Callista Flockhart. That's a great movie. It probably couldn't be made now. It would probably be really offensive to people. And
Oh,
there
yeah,
was
definitely.
criticism then too, on both sides of that. But I think it's
Well-
great because it shows the stuffy, like humorless Republicans, and it shows the really fun but kind of outrageous
The flamboyant
drag club
the-
owners
the
in South Beach, Miami.
flamboyant, gay couple.
And it's so fun. I think that's a great movie, and I think it I don't know, because the thing is, like, I remember one of the criticisms was saying, like, oh yeah, it shows that, like, this kind of gay coupling, this gay marriage isn't as stable as a heterosexual one, and how many movies are there where a straight couple is arguing horrendously over something stupid? Like, the point, like, so I disagree with that, like, criticism, and that was a criticism of the time. Because, like, I just think, I don't know, I love that movie. I think it's really fun. It's a lighthearted look at, like, two completely different worlds, like, kind of colliding because of the love of two young people. I think it's awesome, and they wouldn't be smart enough to make a movie like that anymore, unfortunately.
No,
Very true.
the example I would give is the first few seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, not the later seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Where the first few, it's like the captain's gay, but it's not that big a deal because it's part of his character, his background, and who he is. And then later, it's like more stuff, though. It's like, okay, now there's woke content.
Yeah,
It just got
actually,
worse.
I liked the first few seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and you're right. It was part of who he was. It was casual. It was natural. It wasn't like jammed.
It wasn't
in where
aggressive
it went.
messaging. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny too because he talks about his husband and problems they have and stuff, and it felt natural to his character's story.
Yeah.
And then they just started cramming more like obvious, like, okay, I see what you're doing now. Like, what is this? What is this Brooklyn Nine-Nine? Jesse texted me that we're addressing the comments way too late. So there's a few problems. If I stop trying to explain something, train of thought sort of thing, partway through it, I lose my place, and then I have to pick it up again, and I don't know what I'm trying to say. So you just got to let me get the rant out, and then we'll go back and try and address some of the comments. Also, the other thing is Silver is really bad at her job. She's horrific. She's not human.
There's no timestamp on these comments.
There will be physical punishment.
Oh, absolutely.
There'll be a whipping
Well,
in
we
the
got
corner.
more comments.
Okay, well, what else we got?
Well, two more from Toasty.
Okay.
Saying being LGBTQ expands upon a character's personality and right, so suppressing him, I assume the guy from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, him being gay is fine, but if he becomes more open like the straight characters, it becomes an issue.
No, he was open about it.
No, he was very open. He was deliberately one of the LGBTQ ambassadors in his precinct or something back in the day. Like, they talk about those things. It's a part of his character. I mean, it's not my cup of tea, but it makes sense for his character. Where it would be weird if every episode had messaging about his LGBTQ status. Then you're like, all right, what are we doing? Or he could just be a human that exists with the other humans, and everything he is doesn't revolve around his sexuality, because why is that the most important thing about him? What about who he is as a human, or his personality, or what he likes, or that sort of thing?
Well, and it's really annoying when a straight character just has to let you know how straight they are all the time too. That's also
What
really
you don't
lame.
like it when the
So-
Chad shows up and he's like, I don't like penis. That's like, okay,
Yeah.
buddy. No, I'm really
Everyone has to preach
anti-penis.
the case of the not gays. Like,
Yeah.
it's really lame.
It's like, okay, calm down, buddy. No, I'm really into women and women's butts and boobs. All right, we get it. Like, you're straight. No, I'm really into boobs. Dude, come on.
I mean, they kind of made like a whole comedy, like that Blue Mountain State that we talked about a week or two ago.
Uh-huh.
The now Alan, what's his name? Richardson is in. Mr. Richardson was in. That was a whole comedy show about that hilarious archetype of outrageously quote unquote straight men being so not gay. So I don't like.
Jesse
It's
texted me.
so bad it's worth mocking.
Yeah, well, Jesse texted me that I'm blaming it on the women. I was like, absolutely, I am.
Well, listen.
If she's
it's a
horrible,
loose
she's
stick.
horrible. Yeah. Even she is the overlord, but she's terrible.
Listen,
On
if the
the-
giant
the
kaiju
s-
shaped high heel fits, then she'll win.
On the sitcom
I could-
How I Met Your Mother, Barney, his character
Is
was
super
very
sexist.
much that way. Oh yeah,
Very
yeah.
misogynist, yeah.
Super.
I am
Yeah,
not a
and
fan
he
of
had-
How I Met Your Mother, by the way.
No, well, I would say that some of the best episodes were where they slapped him. It's just like, yeah, that guy, that he deserved those.
Well, I suppose if we're talking about examples, here's an example, a very obvious example of what would be woke. The show exists in the Midwest, and the group of friends has one of everything. Well, it's like, an area that's like 99% white, but we got one black guy, one Asian guy, one of them's gay, and they're like, okay. See, that's what I mean by ham-fisted, unnatural. That they're simply shoving in diversity and inclusion for its own sake, and it doesn't serve the story, and it's not adding. And here's a hot take: they're allowed to do that. We're just criticizing it because it's dumb. And Destiny makes a point where he's like, well, I don't think it's Destiny. I think it's his guest. But makes a point where he's like, well, if you hate it, don't go and see the movie. And it's like, that's what we're doing. We're not watching them. And the only reason why we complain and we rant about these things is because we actually care about the IP and the content. But the reason why it's shoved into the IP and the content is because they know people love it, and they know that they're going to show up anyway. So it's their opportunity to get their message in there. Anyway, Silver, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, like, it would also be dumb, like, if you, like the Midwest scenario you just gave, if you had, like, let's say, a secluded tribe in the middle of Africa, there's one of everybody, in a time before people, came over to Africa. That would not make sense. That would be weird.
Kingdom Come. Well, I'll give you two examples. There were complaints that there wasn't more diversity in Shogun. In isolationist Japan. Because there wouldn't be diversity in Shogun.
Well, there was diversity. There was Portuguese and a
Yeah,
Dutch guy or English. Or
There's
whatever.
there's one English guy and there's a bunch of Portuguese. Yeah.
Yeah,
but
so
it's
there's
like
your diversity. Like,
yeah, there's your diversity.
that was
The
diversity that could exist in that time.
When
Kingdom
people
Come
say stuff
Deliverance.
like that, yeah, that's another one. When people say stuff like that, where they're like, "Where's the diversity in Shogun?" It's like, obviously you have no idea what happened in Japan, because until Admiral Perry basically came in with warships and said, "You will start trading with the outside world," Japan was like, "You guys go somewhere else. We don't want you."
This is before the isolationist policy, but you're right. Yeah, Japan essentially cut themselves off from the world. Silver, what else we have
They
left, and then
only
we have a lot
traded
of
with the Dutch.
the Portuguese.
Oh, was it Portuguese? I thought they had
Yep.
a Dutch enclave there too.
They did,
They
but
may have.
they only let the Dutch stick around because the Dutch would only stay there and didn't have any proselytizing.
Oh, okay.
And the Portuguese
Incredibly-
intention was to convert all of Japan.
Yeah.
Whereas the Dutch wanted money.
Okay, Silver. We have news, and I don't want to drag this out too long, but what else do we got so we can move on to different topic?
We're all caught up with comments.
All right. Thank you, Toasty, for expressing your opinion, especially if they differ with what we're doing. We're all only human, and opinions vary. Believe it or not, not all of us in this. Yes, thank you for sharing. Not all of us agree on things. Some of us are incredibly wrong about subjects, like Ross when it comes to Grandpa Joe. So we all have different opinions. Some of us are just horrifically incorrect, but it's okay. We still like you.
What about me? He says
What
at the
about
end after his
me?
grandson get everything he could ever want.
Oh Grandpa Joe is the secret champion of that film. He's an American hero, even though he's not American. And he sings the best song in the movie.
I mean, I will not deny that last part.
Ross, we don't need to retread the Grandpa Joe argument. We really do not.
Listen, everything else, I can let it go except for that very last line, because the songs were written before the movie was made, so I can forgive the "I've got a golden ticket" thing. That's just oversight. But
like he's taking
"What about
it from
me"
Charlie
at the very end of the movie sucks, and I hate that. Anyway,
he's looking out for himself like a good man would.
Like a good man would.
I've got something for Ross. So this week I was doing a word puzzle, and it asked about the first surgeon who did a heart transplant. Apparently, it was an Egyptian guy, and he was named Yaqub.
No. Oh
Yes.
no.
Oh my gosh.
No. My brain, it's melting. It's collapsing in on itself. No.
The first zero melanin man crawls out of the ooze and.
They didn't say the year on that one, did they? Because it was 6,000 years ago. I know it. Oh God.
Ross is a Yaqub scholar. Also, I'd like to reiterate, thank you, Jesse, for the video and encouraging the topic and having the big discussion. Hopefully, you enjoyed the discussion. We have news, and I knew that discussion was going to take an absurd amount of time. So let's dump this all over you guys.
The Distracted Gamer Podcast's big steaming pile of news dump.
Vince McMahon all over the place.
Let's Vince McMahon it. Hey everybody, I have not prepared the doc. So give me a second. Wait. Professionalism. Oh, hey everybody, the real big story this week is oh my gosh, it wants me to disable ad blocker.
Nah.
The real big story this week is Helldivers. I'm just not going to bring this up because I ain't going to give them the. I'm looking at a Forbes article. So there's a bunch of drama with Helldivers 2. So Helldivers 2's been out for 3 months, and suddenly Helldivers posted a post about how everybody is going to be required to link a PlayStation Network account to their Helldivers 2 game in order to continue playing. It's not. Here's the thing: the publisher of the game is PlayStation. It's not so much that they have to link the account. It's mostly how they're going about it, because they.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. It's because that's not true. It's basically this. They imply that, hey, the rollout that we've been expecting is happening, as if this was common knowledge, as if everybody knew that they were going to be forced to sign up with a PlayStation account. And so it caught people off guard. And this is especially something that you have to do if you have Helldivers on PC, where you will be required to sign it with your PlayStation account in order to continue playing Helldivers. The explanation from them is that this is going to create more safety and allow them to use certain things. So here's what's happening. By signing up with a PlayStation account linking to your Helldivers 2 game, it rolls you into PlayStation Network's term of service. Essentially what's happening. And that allows them to have the capacity to ban accounts, to block people, to control things. If this was stated from the beginning, it probably wouldn't have been as big of a problem, but because it's coming out of nowhere and it's requiring PC players to use it as well, there's been a massive amount of backlash over the fact that this is happening with Helldivers 2. A lot of people are unhappy about what's going on. A YouTuber called Grummins, or Grums, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Mr. Ormaz. He posted a thing where he tracked down a comment by one of the community people for Arrowhead, who is the developer of Helldivers 2. And she said that it wasn't PlayStation that pushed this. She said, and he has evidence like screen captures, because this has since been deleted, that this was pushed by Arrowhead, not PlayStation.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not
So,
buying it.
what do you mean you're not buying it? It's coming from an Arrowhead employee. So you're just assuming she's not telling the truth?
Why would I assume that she is telling the truth?
Yes, like you, Jason, you don't tell the truth. Okay, go ahead with your rant.
The thing is I just don't. I guess. I mean, it seems more something that PlayStation would do as opposed to this particular. It's like, why would I, as the game developer, push my players to have a PlayStation Network account? That doesn't make sense to me. It makes more sense.
It brings them under the term of
I, as
service
the
and allows
publisher-
them to ban people.
Right, but the thing is that if I say, okay, well, I'm going to be publishing this, it makes more sense for me to say, well, I want to drive people to the PlayStation Network, as opposed to I want to be, I as the developer want people to go to the PlayStation Network. But I don't know.
I have a completely out my ass explanation that could explain it on why it's Arrowhead and not Sony. At least certainly not.
Well,
directly.
release it out of your backside.
No, just dump it everywhere.
Silver,
I
no.
think there's probably a thing where right now this is probably the hottest game Sony has on their PlayStation.
Oh, it was huge. It got a lot of attention. There's a lot of Yeah, it's very beloved.
So they want to make sure it has a good reputation. Now, they may say, we don't care how you moderate this game, as long as there's not leering, cheating assholes or people screaming the N-word over voice chat. We don't care. But it has to have a good reputation, because this is the hottest thing we've had in a long time. And we
it's
are your
huge.
publisher.
It's very popular. Unexpectedly popular.
Yes. I mean, like, surprisingly. I mean, I knew it would be popular, but not like this.
They didn't think it would be popular like this.
No. So Arrowhead can look at it and go like, well, we can right now moderate Steam accounts, but it's harder. It's more of a pain in the ass. So why don't we make everybody have PlayStation Network accounts? So that way it's all the same, like the same team can handle both, and it's easier, simpler, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm not in the game industry. I don't know nothing about no computers. And I'm a yokel from Nowhereville, but I could see that being a reality, because I guarantee, because I'm sure Sony is just like, look, as long as the game has, because as soon as the game gets a reputation as being brokenly unplayable because of cheaters, or it has a really toxic reputation, that's really bad, especially when you are Sony. and you are trying to stay afloat of the SS console war, you're gonna grab for anything that'll keep you afloat, and you need it to be a steady craft. So you don't want it.
That I buy.
Okay.
But again, pulled it right out of my ass, so I don't know.
Right out of there. Arrowhead had to come out with a big apology. Apparently, it's been review bombed on Steam, like just
I'm looking at it right now
horrendously
on
so.
Steam. The recent reviews mostly negative. All reviews mixed.
Uh-oh.
It accrued 20,000 negative Steam reviews today alone.
And should we explain why this is probably a problem for people on PC? Like why there's the kind of the base of it, and then there's like the.
No, do
so
it.
not everyone can get PlayStation Network in all countries. There's some countries where it is not possible to get a PlayStation Network account. On top of that, even if you are in a country that can get a PlayStation account, you may not want to, because PlayStation Network has had some very notable leaks of data in the last decade or so, and along with Sony itself. So not everybody
I got a
wants
free
to
game
necessarily
out of
put
it.
any of their information with them. Oh yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did.
So not everyone
They're
wants
like,
to.
Sorry, people stole your information. Here's the game, though. It makes it better, right? And I was like, it doesn't make it better, but the game was really fun, so I don't know what to tell you.
It's like the South Park BP episode. We're sorry.
We're sorry.
Sorry.
And then start rubbing their nipples. I think part of the biggest problem with this thing, too, is that the Helldivers developers were very responsive to the community. They were very active when people would discuss or complain or say things. They were very active in responding to the issues and participating in community concerns and all of those things. And then to get this from a developer who had almost limitless love from how they were able to deal with things and were honest about why things weren't rolled out in certain ways, and then have it crash like this, people felt betrayed, I think, in a way.
Yeah. They had a lot of goodwill.
Yeah, so there's been an apology tour coming. It's a big topic. I don't want to dwell on it too much. But yeah, I think we've said pretty much what we need to. Let's start shifting on. Hey everybody, Chris Hemsworth had something to say about his Thor movies. He's like, yeah, they did
I bet
suck.
it was really positive. Oh.
Here's an article coming from Bounding into Comics. Marvel's Chris Hemsworth admits to poor performance in Thor: Love and Thunder. I got caught up in the improv and the wackiness. I became a parody of myself. You certainly did. In an admittedly shocking show of humility out of not just an industry, but a franchise that has become notorious for refusing any and all criticism, Marvel star Chris Hemsworth has admitted that he missed the mark when it came to his over-the-top wacky performance as the titular Avenger in Thor: Love and Thunder. Here's an example, since we're all wokey today. Here's an example of woke. There's a movie about a character called Thor, and they basically humiliate and reduce his character to elevate the person that the movie's not named after. That would
certainly
be
dog shit.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry. And here's the thing. With the woke, it's also poorly written.
Hey, I don't watch Marvel movies. Quick question. Is that Thor in a fucking hot dog suit?
Yeah.
Is that behind the scenes, or is that in the movie?
Well, no, that's in the movie, and we forget. We forget that in Endgame they made him fat and made fun of him. The most masculine character, they made him fat and a joke. That would be an example of shaming men to prop up the other characters, which would fall into the category that we have established this day. He says, "I would."
Google search.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Thor: London Thumber, that made money.
Yeah.
Why? He's in a hot. Oh my God! I hate Marvel. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
Well, this is why you don't watch it, because you don't like it. The only person here that's seen it, I think, is Silver, because she has to watch pieces of garbage.
Your parents are really
I had
bad
to watch
to you.
it and cry that Loki wasn't in it.
No.
Yeah, well, Loki sucks. Not because
He's
I
in
hate
his
him,
own
but because
terrible
you...
TV show.
He sucks, not because I hate him, but because you like him. I would read everyone's lines and go, oh, they got off way cooler stuff. They're having more fun. What's my character doing? It was always about, you got a wig on, you've got muscles, you've got the costume, where's the lightning? Yeah, I'm part of this big thing, but I'm probably pretty replaceable. That's the problem when you start inserting messaging, you start changing characters, and it's like the movie's called Thor. Can we make it about Thor? Is that weird? Can we make it about Thor?
We can mock
anyway?
him.
We can mock him. We can make him a joke.
Just a really
Shame
terrible
he should have
decision.
recognized
That's
that. To read Toasty's comment, shame he should have recognized that in Ragnarok. I super agree with you, Toasty. Ragnarok also had problems. Toasty is spot on that comment.
Jeff Goldblum, and he's great.
Loki was in it, and he's great.
Stop talking about Loki.
Let me live.
So apparently, in the classic version of Paper Mario, there's a scene where one of the Goombas catcalls a female Goomba, and Nintendo censored it in the new version.
So dumb.
So wait, the villain was catcalling?
Yes, and then you're
yes.
supposed to have a fight with them and beat them up.
Wait, so you're defending a woman being catcalled, and they didn't want that in there? What?
Yep. This is so totally the Sokka thing from the recent live action. It's like, let's get rid of this thing that we find sexist now. It's like, well,
but it was about
why?
a guy being not sexist anymore.
Yeah.
Oh. Uh-oh.
All right.
I mean, it'd be one thing if Mario did it.
They're sexist, and then they're actually doing something about it, and defeating these jerks, and now they've decided to take it out.
Okay, here's a big story that we don't have a massive amount of time to talk to, but it's actually a really big story that's worth spending time talking about, but we're going to do it disservice. Deadline has a massive article by Anthony, I'm not going to pronounce your last name, who went about talking about the massive losses that Disney took with a lot of their big blockbusters. Not just Disney, there were big losses across the board with a lot of other films. And he discusses the reasonings for it, extremely large budgets, really bad writing, et cetera, but he breaks down the cost and how much these movies lost. And here's an example. He talks about the Marvels, how much it cost. He goes, they basically add up the box office revenues and then all of the expenses, and then they calculate essentially how much loss the movie had made. The main issue that I have with this, and a lot of people have had with it, especially his example of the Marvels, is a few things. And I talked to Ross about this and he laughed hysterically. So firstly, he's quoting the production cost for the Marvels pre-refilming, reshoots.
Oh, reshoots. Mm-hmm.
So that's not calculated into this. On top of that, I find it hard to believe that they only spent $110 million on ads.
No,
I find that shockingly low.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there's a number that should be pointed out that you'll find in a lot of these movies if you do any analysis. They have this example in the revenue called television and streaming. It's essentially an example of when they would sell these to television studios, let's say TBS or something, so that they can air it on cable. They would essentially assess the value of the IP, and then they would pay this lump sum for the rights to stream it, essentially. And I don't know, the contracts could be timed or whatever. And so they'd pay this lump sum. And so there would be an assessment as to the value of the product and yada, yada, yada. But the problem is that's not really how things are functioning right now. How things are functioning is a lot of things is going to streaming, so you're not really getting a lot of ad revenue or a lot of cable television buying things as much as you used to. So, what the quote here, the 90 million quote of revenue from television and streaming, is the amount that Disney Plus paid Disney for the rights to stream the Marvels.
Okay.
That's the equivalent of we've investigated ourselves and found no wrongdoing.
Literally, this
Behave
is
yourself.
Disney. This is not only Disney paying itself for the rights to stream its own movie, but this is also the amount that Disney assessed itself that it thinks that that's how much it's worth, that franchise. So how fair is it an assessment of the value of that film in the market when they're paying themselves to stream it on their own streaming service?
Which is hilarious because didn't we talk about how Disney Plus didn't make any money so far? Not a few weeks ago, a month ago. Gee, I wonder why. 'Cause they're
Disney
trying to prop
Plus
up their
is
film industry. Jesus.
there's an article, I didn't bring it up, but there's an article last year in December that apparently Disney Plus's losses up to this date equate to a total of something like 11 billion. They're expecting, this is from Disney, they're expecting to be revenue positive, I think in less than a year. So we'll have to see. Yeah, this is the problem we're having in Hollywood. And like they said in Destiny Stream, it's like, well, if you don't like the woke stuff, don't see it. This is people clocking out and refusing to see it right here. This is the market responding to political messaging and ham-fisted content shoved into stuff that doesn't serve the story, but only seems to damage it and offend parts of the population. The smart financial decision would be to make a non-offensive general film that obviously doesn't have really anything interesting to say and probably isn't really a great film if you're really into film. But it's sure, general audiences sure do love it. The Flash lost 155, according to this. Obviously, there's some disagreement. The general consensus with the Marvels is the loss is probably close to 350. Anyway, The Flash, 155. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, 143. There's a lot of speculation that this is very low. There were actually quite a few reshoots on this as well, and I don't believe it's expressed in the expenses. Also, apparently they assess the streaming value, that the revenue that they received from paying themselves for the streaming rights is 120 million for Indiana Jones. No one gives a shit about the Dial of Destiny anymore. Nobody. Wish, a loss of 131. I've seen a pretty extensive breakdown of these films, and the overall assessment is that this article claims that the overall losses for Disney out of these films is something like 600 million. A lot of the, I don't know, people on the internet that seem to think they know better thinks it's a lot closer to like a billion, like 9 something.
Wow.
Overall losses for films. Anyway, Ross's favorite article that he's super psyched about, The Rock's Pee. So apparently there was a report that Dwayne Johnson was secretly trying to take over DC. Let's read on, if we will. A new report confirms that we and others following the DCEU a few years ago suspected, based on the available trending intel, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was trying to take over the film universe and put himself at the center of it. The Wrap reports that Johnson wanted his production company that co-produced Black Adam and Shazam to take over leadership of DC Films from Walter Hamada and his failed regime that churned out The Flash and Birds of Prey. The report claims that Johnson and his ex-wife met with Warner Brothers Discovery executive. The primary agenda was Black Adam and bringing Henry Cavill back to Superman, but Johnson also wanted to use the occasion to lobby for power, according to inside sources. That didn't work out. Black Adam underperformed. The Rock actually sort of damaged his reputation among a lot of people by being really political this last year. Here's where we get to his weird habits. So apparently there's accusations that he had a chronic problem of lack of professionalism, which doesn't seem like a Rock trait, but I don't know him personally, so this might be. He had a habit of showing up to sets late, like 7-8 hours late.
What?
Which is a big
78
yes.
hours?
And on top of that, here's what Ross wanted to know. On set, away from his trailer, if he needs to pee, he doesn't go to a public bathroom. He pees in a Voss water bottle. And his team or PA has to dispose of it.
Oh my god.
I don't know, Rock. I don't know, Rocky. His rising star is not so rising anymore, as one would have to say.
You had to go back to WWE for a reason.
Rushing forward, Square Enix announces that it's tanked $140 million in losses due to content abandonment, though there's no clue what's been dropped and where. So they apparently canceled something like 10 projects in the works, which makes people really concerned what projects they are. I super secretly hope, but it's probably one of them, that the long-rumored remake for Final Fantasy Tactics is coming, but my bet would it's in these canceled projects. Let's read on a little bit. In light of the myriad changes underway in the environment surrounding its group, Square Enix plans to revise the group's approach to the development of high-definition games with the intention of being more selective and focused on the allocation of developed resources as a result of a close examination of the group's development pipeline undertaken in keeping. This is all company speak. The company expects to recognize approximately $22.1 billion or approximately $140 million in content abandonment losses in its books for the fiscal year ended March 2024. Geez, I sure hope I get the third Final Fantasy VII game. I mean, I'm gonna, but that's really all I care about. They can.
How much you want to bet Square Enix is going to be a Sony-owned developer in the next few years?
It's possible. They sold off a bunch of assets, including, was it Human Revolution and Tomb Raider?
Yeah, Deus Ex and Tomb Raider, yeah.
Deus Ex, yeah. Let's keep chugging along and getting through stories at breakneck speeds. Avengers Endgame director said that they don't believe superhero fatigue is a thing and that the MCU universe's problem is part of a generational divide. To sum this up, apparently their claim is that newer generations have very low attention spans, and that's why that's why people aren't going to see super. Well, that's a massive turnaround, especially when recent Spider-Man movies pale in comparison. And there's examples of podcasts that last hours and hours that are super popular. But their claim is apparently TikTok and stuff belies to the autistic nature of current generations and their lack of attention spans.
It's those goddamn Gen Zers in their TikTok brain. That's why we're failing. Oh.
How they consume media. Let's read this quote really quick. Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, this is another one I don't buy. So go for it.
You shouldn't buy.
There's a big generational divide about how you consume media. There's a generation that used to appoint viewing and go to the theater on certain dates to see something, but is aging out. Meanwhile, the new generation I want it now. I want to process it now. Then moving on to the next thing, which they process whilst doing other things at the same time. It's a very different moment in time than it's ever been. And so I think everyone, including Marvel, is experiencing the same thing, this transition. I think that is really probably what's at play more than anything else. No, Marvel is making really shitty movies. That's actually what's happening.
Yeah. The thing is,
Moving
on.
on.
If Marvel made awesome movies, people would go to the theater to see them. There wouldn't be a question.
I don't have superhero fatigue. I have bad movie fatigue.
Yeah, exactly.
If they dishonor the characters and it looks really bad, then I don't want to see it. The Sweet Baby Inc. influenced, famously, Alan Wake 2 still hasn't recouped its losses. On the cost of it, for the cost of its budget. I'm sorry, losses. It hasn't recouped its budget, so to speak. I think its budget is somewhere between 70 to 80 million for Alan Wake 2, and it still hasn't earned enough to make that money back. Yeah. Yep. Everybody, let's move on to Ross's favorite movie, Rebel Moon 2. Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon 2, The Scargiver viewership has plummeted in its second week on Netflix. Update us on the current Rebel Moon Walmart status.
So at my local Walmart, there's an end cap at the end of in the electronics aisle on one of the aisles. There's an end cap of it, and still all there from the first Rebel Moon movie. They may have sold a couple.
We don't even
of
have
bags
second
of
movie.
popcorn. No. Walmart's not paying money for that. They still have the first movie stuff.
The film debuted at the top of Netflix's English language film chart, bringing in 44.2 million hours viewed and 21.4 million views. However, in its second week, viewership fell to 38. That's a decline of 12.2 hours and 12.1 in total views. Sorry, Ross, you were saying?
No, just saying, like, it's all still there, and it is on blowout or clear out. Like, they have the yellow tags, and nobody's buying it. So, still.
Hey,
yeah,
I
think Zack
guess
Snyder
whatever.
might not be a good filmmaker.
Yeah, I think he kind of sucks. I think we were lied to because what the Watchmen and 300 were good. You know what's funny? What's the most common thing people say, or even you would say, as to what Zack Snyder's good at? Why are his films good?
Say action. His stylish action.
Cinematography.
Yeah.
Okay, so usually everybody says his best movies are 300 and Watchmen, correct? I'm leading you, obviously. So, you want to know something interesting? You want to know something interesting? Both 300 and The Watchmen have the same cinematographer, and the rest of the movies don't have that guy. So when people talk about the best part of Zack Snyder is his cinematography, and his best movies, the cinematographer is somebody who didn't work with him after the other two. And guess who the cinematographer is on Rebel Moon?
God, who? I don't know.
Zack Snyder.
Oh, no!
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
He super is.
Uh-oh. Oh.
Hey, everybody.
So
Apparently, everybody hates the new Mufasa The Lion King prequel. I don't know why. Honestly, I'm going to say I don't know why. This might be a general Disney backlash because they've damaged their brand somewhat. Let's read. The Walt Disney Company turned off the comments for his latest trailer for Mufasa The Lion King, as numerous individuals shared their dislike of the trailer in the upcoming film. The trailer is currently shy of 6.2 million views and has over 237,000 dislikes and only 107,000 likes. So it's been ratioed. So I'm going to speculate. I heard negative things from the bubble of internet things I consume, of people disliking the first quote unquote live action, it's a CGI movie, Lion King. Which might make you think, oh, the first Lion King was widely disliked. No, actually, it was very popular. It brought in like $1.6 billion.
The first Lion King was, yeah, it was beloved.
No, I'm not talking about the animated. This is the CGI computer animated film.
Okay, so
it did really well.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, not the original. I'm talking about the first.
The first remake.
The first remake.
The first CGI.
This is the prequel to that one.
Yeah.
Strangely. So it was very loved. I don't know why this is being downvoted like crazy. I expect it has something to do with general Disney negativity. I haven't seen the trailer, so I can't tell you whether or not it looks terrible. But the people are not responding.
I would wonder if this is kind of a case of we don't want this. And
that might be
we
it.
don't care, because I read through that article and a couple of things jumped out at me. They were saying that like they retconned some stuff that happened in the original Lion King, where it was like Mufasa
dishonoring the source material.
Simba. Yeah, we're descended from a long line of king lions, kind of thing, and now this is kind of Mufasa becomes the king but he wasn't
first king?
originally. Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, that's weird. And this is actually that one that I was talking about. Basically the director of this particular Mufasa, somebody called him out on it and says, "Why are you shilling for this? You know it's garbage." And he's like, "No, I'm not shilling." It's like, maybe, yeah, you probably are.
Okay. Anybody have any reflections at all?
These movies look terrible. Like, I was just looking at the images. It looks ugly. Why are they so ugly?
This is an aside I'm going to go through really quickly.
Anymore, Ross?
No, we can't. This is an aside I'm going to go through really quickly. There's an odd. I don't really care about this drama that happens on Twitter, except for the direct issue. I'm not a huge Asmongold fan either. So the Grums, the guy who actually revealed the information that Arrowhead is actually the one that requested the PSN account stuff. He gets insider information about stuff and reveals it, whether or not you like him or not. I don't, whatever. He's the source of that. Well, apparently a YouTuber and Twitch streamer, well, his is him reacting to it. There was originally a guy named Tone Man who basically stated $20,000 to anyone who makes this dipshit disappear. Which sounds like he's asking for people to kill him?
Yeah.
Brum's response being, now they want to hire hitmen to take me out. What did I tell everybody? That they want you dead over game tweets. I've had 4 to 5 calls for violence today because I am asking for Stellar Blade to restore it for what it advertised. He apparently tweeted out a tweet about how Sony changed Eve's outfits to be less explicit. And people were complaining that, hey, you should restore it to what it originally was and stop censoring your games, whatever your position is on that. That's really tasteless, implying that he's offering up $20,000 for somebody to make him disappear. Even if he has really shit political positions that you disagree with, you should not be calling for the murder of another person on the internet. It's a weird comment to say, honestly. But that seems way too overboard. Weirdly enough, a Twitch streamer called Denims upped the bounty to 30,000, got called out, and then tried to claim it was a joke. I don't care what your position is. You guys probably should be calling for. It's hard to see the comedy in death threats.
No, it's hilarious to ask for people to kill someone for money over game opinions. That's what? It's funny.
Well, and I'm going to end with this sort of article. It's there's an observation. There's something that happens in these sorts of things, and I get it. The geek and nerdy community, where they get obsessed about things they love, things that are beloved to them, and they take it personal when people criticize things that are very personal to them. Like, a lot of their personality comes about how they love this certain anime, and then somebody shows up and then they crap all over it, and they're like, it's really awful. This anime is terrible. And instead of going like, oh, he didn't like the anime, they respond with, they're hurting me personally, because people self-identify with the content that they consume, which is so I think stupid. We should, well, correct. We need to move away from that. It's not healthy for you. On top of that, with how vitriolic the political discourse is in the country, the culture war, so to speak, when a game comes out that's even remotely, like, let's say, leans into your political spectrum, people feel an obligation to defend it, rather than, well, it's good or bad, whether or not. And so things become tribal and people start picking sides. I don't know why Toneman feels necessary to call for the death of Grums. But it feels like it's probably part of that tribalistic, nonsensical, I'm on this side, I have these opinions, he's on that side, he has those opinions. Why doesn't somebody take this guy out? I'm sick of him. Even if it's rhetorical or even if it's a joke, this is when we stop talking to each other, when we stop treating each other as human beings that are capable of having different opinions, and we live in a world where we're together, then we might as well pack it in. Okay? If anything, this podcast is advocating for everybody should just be allowed to like what they like, and then we could complain if we don't like something, and if you don't like us, or like, well, that's super fine.
Seriously,
This
there's so much.
this doesn't
you can
smooth
do.
over the conflict. Go ahead, Jason.
No. Well, the thing is that everyone now has a platform. If you don't like what some guy said about some video game or movie or whatever it happens to be, rebut him. Go put up your own reaction video and say why he's wrong. Explain to me why this is the best thing since sliced bread. Go for it. You can do it. You totally can.
No, I want to hire a hitman.
And then you want this lady to double down on it and be like, oh, 30,000 to get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just a dude on the internet with opinions. Like, I don't want to kill Ross most of the time.
What, because of my Grandpa Joe opinions? You would.
Well,
He's a bum.
Shut up about Grandpa Joe, Ross. Shut up about Grandpa Joe. And also, guess what? Your opinions about Private Upham are incorrect as well.
No, those are, listen.
No,
the world
no,
agrees with me on
no, don't listen to me.
that. Listen, the world agrees.
$20,000 to the person who takes out Ross.
He is worthless.
I'm coming over right now.
I need the money. I need it.
Don't worry, Oreo will prevent any harm from happening to me.
Yeah, there's a cat there. You won't be able to
Cat.
resist.
If it's Silver, yeah, she'll.
She should kill you
Bond with the
just
cat.
so that she could take the cat and add to her collection.
She's just gonna
Oh
suddenly
yeah,
Oreo in a
if I
bow tie.
successfully get the cat, I don't need the money. Yeah, that cat is wearing a bow tie immediately.
Sorry, Oreo.
Well,
I'll do
it's
my
like-
best, buddy.
It's like Pokemon. You got to collect them all.
Gotta catch them all, Silver Val.
All the cats.
Catch 'em all, others cats.
Other people's cats. Oh goodness. This has been a very ranty day for me personally. But believe it or not, despite the fact I am a dominant voice in this, at least in this podcast today, everybody's allowed to rant. They just don't have it in them quite yet. So one of these days we're getting this incredible rant from Silver that'll just bleed our eyeballs. We won't know what to do about it.
Well, I'm sure it'll get us canceled too. No,
It'll get us super canceled. She'll start
no.
dropping like gamer words and stuff that you should not be saying on the internet.
the game.
You might even say scandalous.
Scandalous. Man, that's really inappropriate. Don't you mean it's
Moving on
scandalous?
immediately.
Closing thoughts, Jason? Anything you want to add to this story or anything in general? What's going on this coming week?
Man.
Blah blah blah.
Like I said, if we have offended you in any way, shape, or form, please take the healthy way and rant about us on and why we are wrong on YouTube.
Actually, the healthy thing would be just you don't have to watch us. We're not your cup of tea,
Yeah.
I guess. Move
But
along,
hey,
sir.
if we said something, if you want to if we said a hot take and you're like, hey, that's not true, do a video on the 10 points why we're wrong.
You're gonna make me cry. I'm gonna take it personal. I'm gonna take it personal.
Make Rhett cry.
Hashtag make Rhett cry.
Hashtag-
Ross, closing thoughts.
The internet's hilarious. Corporate
It's really
spending
funny.
is also the funniest thing on the planet right now, and that's perhaps some of my most favorite entertainment is hearing how corporations in every corner of the entertainment industry just completely trip over themselves, and it's awesome. Also, looking forward to Legends of Galactic Heroes, some more serious anime that takes itself serious. It's nice.
Oh, rock on. Yeah, corporations don't deserve your money. They have to earn your money. And and if at any point you feel that you have to defend a corporation, second guess what you're doing. That they're doing fine on their own. Don't pick a side because it's the culture war. You don't have to get tribal and defend Coca-Cola. It's weird. They've got money. Silver?
I'll leave you with a quote of inspiration.
Sweet.
Yay.
That I found from Elbert Hubbard.
Okay.
Do not take life too seriously. You'll never get out of it alive.
That's true. None of us are going to escape. Just to respond before we get out of here, because Toasty has a comment before I scream into the night. Toasty says, well, Denims is of the Hassan and further ilk. That makes sense.
Yeah. Oh.
Denims is in a Hassan Piker contemporary. All right. Well, good to know. It's not so illogical anymore. I appreciate it, Toasty. And I also appreciate anybody that comes along and listens to the podcast and doesn't say anything. But it's super cool. If you like it, share it. Great. Oh, Toasty has a quote. I was about to run out of here. Never regret yesterday, L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah.
Good times, champ. I played Hearts of Iron this week. There's a good chance I'm going to play it in the future. Probably get back to Rebirth. I took a little bit break. And I'm still going to keep watching the most just awful show that Silver loves. And we're gonna see where things go from there. Hopefully, everybody has a wonderful weekend and a super awesome week. Thanks for coming by. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Later.
If you like the show, follow Rhett, Jason, Ross, and Silver, the world's most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter at DG Podcast or on Instagram at Distracted Gamers. If you liked or hated what you heard here today, you can email them at thedistractedgamers@gmail.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason would care, since he hasn't any, of course.
Oh my God, it's so juicy!